Growing up, I wasn't always the big kid. Um, I think I really started gaining weight around third or fourth grade. That was actually around the time my parents got divorced, I believe. For a couple of years, we were displaced from the house, and we really relied a lot on microwave foods and quick meals. And we're living in a spot where it wasn't really the safest, so we couldn't really go out and play like normally we would. I really think that was one of the biggest contributing factors that kickstarted my weight gain. Growing up, I never was really teased about my weight. Actually, the only person that ever really teased me about my weight eventually became my best friend, and we're still friends to this day. And I think maybe that might be part of what really like made me feel comfortable with where I was and not really feel that urgency to do something about it. And throughout high school, again, nobody teased me. I had a good group of friends, and I really felt accepted the way I was. And I accepted that, and I accepted myself how I was. But I never really felt like I had too big of a struggle as far as like with like eating and stuff like that. I think for the most part, I was pretty normal with the eating, and I was very physical. Like I played a lot of soccer all the time. I just not really sure what it is, but I just continued to gain that weight. Even in college, I would join the soccer team in college, participated in the workouts, the trainings, and was very careful with the foods that I ate, but I continued to gain that weight. When I was in college, there was a major life event that really affected me and was one of the big reasons why I actually ran away from college. And it put me in a moment and in a headspace where it was really dark, and I was in a headspace where I actually at that moment, contemplated suicide. And at that moment when I saw, like, and I heard myself think that was my escape, I knew I couldn't do it. And, like, I knew that wasn't where I should be, and that wasn't me. So I decided I just have to get away from all this. I just had to get away from that madness. I had to remove myself from that situation to save me and save myself, so I left. And for a few years, yeah, it was really tough. I didn't do any of the things that I loved, and I just ate a lot. Food really became that crutch to me. Actually, in this very room, back in the day, it was my spot, and I just sat here on a little blue couch and cried, and I would eat, and I just fell into the deep depression after that life event that happened. And it was like that for, honestly, quite a long time. I think it was about two years or so that, like, I really was in that stage, And eventually I started, realizing, hey, this isn't the way to be. So I started playing soccer again, and I noticed that there was some change there. I did lose some weight, But it wasn't the same at that point, because my body was bigger than it ever was. I had back issues. Even when I tried to walk normally, I had pains in my back. My knees started cracking, and it just really wasn't the same. And it continued to decline. I would get really dizzy when I would try to get up and start to play. I just would like feel really hot all the time. It was just so uncomfortable. And this continued, and I tried several different diets. I tried to mirror like the Whole30 diets that they did, the paleo diet, and it just wouldn't work, and I would try it for like a good 3-month period, and eventually I'd give up because the results weren't showing, and that would kind of make me feel defeated. And I know throughout the years, my doctor did mention weight loss surgery, and he would say, hey, this is something that you should consider. And I know my relatives have done that. You know, my grandmother, my mother, and my sister, they all have done the gastric bypass. So I was aware of it, and I was able to witness, you know, the outcomes, and, you know, they're really amazing outcomes. But me, myself, I was always just still afraid of the idea of, you know, being put under an anesthesia and all the possible things that could go wrong with the procedure. It just made me afraid of that. So I never really went through with it. Fast forward a few years, you know, I finally was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And that was something that really hit me hard. Because although, you know, knowing about like my lifestyle and my weight, I always knew that that was a possibility. But now that it was really manifested in my life, now that it was an actual thing, that's where it really hit me hard, you know. And the moment when the doctor came in, you know, she sat with me and she's like, your blood sugar is at 36, I believe she said it was. And I was like, is that bad? She's like, it's pretty bad. You know, I'm not going to sugarcoat things. Sugar. And she told me, she's like, what we need to do right now, and this is something that you're going to have to do once a week, was these injections in your abdomen or in your thighs or wherever. And I just remember just being a little stunned, and she pulled out the little pen of this medicine. It was called Trulicity, and she says, this is what you're gonna have to do. And I guess like I kind of half heard her, and like I can see what was going on, but in my head I was just like, it's at this point now, you know? I don't think to myself, Chito, like, what are you doing? Chito, you saw all of this coming and you didn't stop it. And like, I remember seeing her, she like lifted her shirt, she's like, and then you have to do this, you're gonna do that. And I was just like, in a half stun, you know? And I remember even she was looking at me. She can see the heartbreak in my eyes. She even cried. And we sat there for like a good 10-15 minutes, you know. And just like even now reliving it, you know, makes it a little hard. Because like I remember that moment, like she handed me the pen, and I was looking at it and I was like, this can't be my life. Like, this can't be my life. And like I put it to my stomach, and I just couldn't push that button. I just couldn't push that button. And she's like, just breathe. Like, no rush. We're here, you know, for you. And I was like, you know, you're gonna, you know, this is gonna suck. You know, I hate needles. I hate this stuff. But she's like, it's not that bad, but this is going to be the best thing for you, and we can get you on track to changing this. I was like, okay. So I pushed the pen, and I just remember that sensation of it first going in, and then pop, it stopped, you know. And I was like, that little pop sound was like me just bursting through a door to a path that's going to change my life. You know, and she gave me the information about which doctor to go to. They suggested to go to the Rose Medical Center for bariatric surgery, and I was like, yeah, let's go. Send them my information, whatever you need. Let's get this, you know. And yeah, so once a week I had to do that injection. I was still taking, you know, my metformin as well, and I was on Lisinopril. You know, I just like was like, I never like imagined that I would be on those pills. Like I was barely like 29 at the time, and I was like, I have to stop this. I have to stop this, and I have to like do something to make that change. And so I finally, you know, went to that first consultation with Dr. Michael Snyder, and you know, he was a very amazing doctor, very amazing guy. I immediately in his true care. And he's like, this is what we got to do. We're going to do the gastric bypass. Because I also had, issues with heartburn. So I said, yeah, no, the sleeve, it's not going to be ideal for you. Gastric bypass is the way to go. So I was like, okay, it gave me the paperwork, and there was a few things that I needed to do to get to that point where it's like, yep, this is surgery date, that's it. For the longest time, I was really afraid still. I was taking those beginning steps, but I procrastinated so much of it because I was just so afraid still of the idea of being, put to sleep for the, the procedure and all these things. So, I at least did like, some like the visits, the blood tests, things like that, the psych eval, things like that, all throughout the year of 2020. And, I finally was like, hey, like that moment that really made that final little like nudge to just finish it all and get it done was one time we were getting ready to go to Texas. And it was the first time I was around my mom doing that injection, and I could see that it pained her in her eyes to see me do that. And like I could imagine, being a parent and looking at your son doing something like that, like it just kind of break your heart, in a way, because like, and like she wouldn't want to look, and and I was like, and like always I struggle with that. I'm like, Mom, like I'm scared. I every single time, no matter how many times I did it, it was always hard to do that shot. And like just seeing like her eyes and like break her heart, seeing me do that, I was like, yeah, I gotta do it. I gotta stop playing around, stop procrastinating, and get it done. So, I finally did it. I went to the doctor and I was like, yep, I finished this, and that. We're good to go. And like the next day when I submitted everything that I needed to, they called me and they're like, hey, we have a surgery that you could actually come do with a week from now, or you decide. And I was like, okay. It was a little much, like right then and there to decide. But I was like, you know what, let's set it for February 9th. That was a good time, or gives me, a couple, like about a month or so to really get in that mindset, like, hey, this is going to happen, But you never always get into that mindset, like 100%, because even on the day of procedure, I was so scared out of my mind. I was so nervous because still the thought of like, okay, they're going to put me under. But I found a video on YouTube that I watched, and this guy really explained his experience, and his mindset was exactly like mine. And that helped me kind of feel that a little more confidence to go through with it. And it was a really cool moment because, when we were sitting in the waiting room before they put me in the OR, I called my dad and I prayed with my dad. And after me and my dad and my mom prayed, the doctor came in. And he's like, all right, Rossio, like, we're ready to go. This is going to be such an exciting day and a big day for you. And he said, but before we go, I want to ask your permission. Is it okay that we pray? That right there inside my heart, like, made me know that, yes, like, this is the man, this is the doctor that's going to help change my life. And, like, again, like, this was meant to be, that's like, that moment right there, I was like, yeah. And we prayed, and we got ready, and then we went to the OR. Like, the whole team, they met me. They were like, like, this is going to be just so amazing. They were so encouraging, so positive. And we were ready to go, and like the next thing I know, like I woke up and I gotta tell you, that experience, like after too, like I heard horror stories, but I thank goodness it was nothing like those stories. And I felt good. I felt great. I was up and walking shortly after, and like I remember the doctor came in, he's like, how you feeling? I was like, doctor, honestly, I feel great. I honestly don't even think that you did anything. He goes, we cut you up pretty good up in there. It was funny, but yeah, I just thank goodness that I actually finally went through with that. And ever since then, it's just been so much change, so much stuff that's been so amazing. And, right now, I think I'm like 8 months or 9 months out, and I lost 120 pounds. you know, like my knees don't hurt, my back doesn't hurt, you know, like, you know, I'm slimming and I'm able to play soccer again, you know, and be able to do those things that I've loved, you know. So this is actually, you know, been one of the best decisions I've ever made. And like things are just going to continue to get better, and I just have to continue to understand my body and understand myself. And I can definitely continue on with like a little more details and some more of the daily things that I just wanted to kind of do this video to share the story about like leading up to it, and you know, that decision, you know. But if you know, if you enjoyed this video and if you want me to kind of post a little more about stuff that I go through, my thoughts throughout this whole process, you know, I'll definitely love to do so. If you ever want to reach out to me, you totally can. You know, hit me up in the comments and stuff like that, and you know, we can talk. And if you're ever, you know, curious about, you know, some of the other stuff like my vitamins and stuff that I do, you know, I'm an open book. So, you know, thank you very much for watching this, and you know, hope everybody just has a great day, and I appreciate it.